Am I audible? So we will start in 1 or 2 minutes. Let's wait if some more people join. So we will start at 6:02 maybe. Let's see if we more some people can join. Okay, so let's start. So hello everyone, my name is Rijay Mukherjee, and I'll be taking this live session for NPTEL course on programming in modern C++. I am a research scholar at the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, IIT Kharagpur. So the like every week this will be an interactive session. So we will be solving some questions from like that was asked in the assignments, and that will help you in final exam also. So we'll start now. So can please anyone respond that I am audible or not? Just write in the chat if I am audible. Okay. 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 So let's start. So this week's course was mostly on constructor, destructor, and class like encapsulation kind of things. So we will start with solving some questions regarding that. So this is one code segment that is given. So the code has a, class, like let's say a class that is called complex, and it has two private private members, data members. So so these are called data members, and these are called member functions. So this is the term that is used. So uh, so the question is in this case, so which set of methods here change the state of the complex class object. So like so it states that which all methods change the state of the complex class objects, right? So what is a object of a class? Object of a class is basically a variable. What does this class contain? It contains two integer type variables. So the basically those are the data, those are which are actually called data members. So we have the question asks which of these which of these methods, like here are given a few methods we have for void types and non-identity types, which of them change the state of the class complex object class object. So change of state in the sense it means that change the values of one of the variable, right? So let's look at them one by one, which of them actually does that. So as you can see, the first one, that is void set RE. Does it change the state of the variable, the class object? Yes, because here what happens, a local object, a local variable RE is getting changed, its value is getting updated. So uh, this by calling this member function, one can update the class complex, object of the class complex. Similarly, set IM, it also changes the state of the class object because it also assigns a value to a member function, a data member. Next is void print. See here, none of the value is changed. It only is used for printing purposes. Just it is used, nothing else. It is not being updated. So this one does not change the state of complex class object. Next is void incr. It increments these values re and im. So these change the state of the complex class object. Next is uh, the function int increment re. So here you see, so here you see uh, the uh, uh, the value is just returned. It is not updated. The value of re is not getting updated. It is just increment of re plus 1 is just returned. Its value doesn't get changed here. So this doesn't change the state of the object of complex class. Last is increment im. Here what happens, here postfix increment takes place, so value of im gets changed. So this changes the state of the class complex object. So set re, set im, incr and incr im changes the value of the data members. So this one is the answer. Clear this one? So this gives a flavor of just how class works, like what are the variable, what are the different ways class objects are treated, like that. So let's go to the next one. So this is a very interesting question. So you have been given a this code segment, right? So 1 minute, let me share it. Okay. So you can access the Jamboard here. Like you can just click on this link and you can access it. So so here you have like a class definition is given called number. It has an int type integer variable, and it has got two constructors. So it has two constructors. One doesn't take any value as input, and another takes one integer I as input. and that one is just forwarded as initialization for this. So it is, then these operations are performed. So the question is, what will be the output of this code? So let's go over this one by one. So here is one object is created, here is another object is created, here no object is created, and here another object is created. So these are the three times the object is are getting created. So whenever we create an object of what is the like fundamental of a constructor? So what happens in a constructor? We always, the constructor is the default uh, default method that is always called whenever an object of a class is created. So whenever a object of class is created, constructor is called. So in this case you can see this is a object object creation, this is object creation, this is not an object creation, it's just a pointer creation. In pointer creation, no, nothing, whenever you just define a pointer, no such uh, location in the memory space is created for an object, right? So, and this one is a object creation. So three times object is created. Now what happens when number n1 is called? So what is the difference between this and, suppose we define as number n1? So what is the difference between this? Can anyone say what is the difference between this placing a parenthesis and not placing a parenthesis? That simple difference defines this problem, how you perceive this problem. So what happens when this one is there? When we define this like this, number n1, number n1, it calls this constructor, the one which doesn't take any parameter as input. When we call this one, it calls this one, the one which takes a parameter as input, because we are passing a parameter for object creation. Similar thing happens to this. This one is called because we are passing a parameter, but in this case no parameters are passed, so this one gets called. But in this case what happens, it calls the default constructor. As a result, none of these two constructor definition will work in this case. So in this case it will just be a blank call. But for n2 and in this new n number n plus, this one will get called. So what will happen is, first time value of n is 1. So 1 will come here and 1 will get assigned to n, and 1 I plus plus, since it is a postfix, so after the value is passed, the value of I is incremented. So 1 will be passed from here and then the value of I will become 2. So 1 will go here and 1 will be printed here. So first output will be 1. Next when we do here. So I value will become 3, but before that 2 will be passed here. 2 will be passed here, 2 will come here, and 2 will be printed. So the output will be 1 comma 2. So so the objective of this problem is to let you know the difference between different types of constructors. So one, there is default constructor, which is defined by the program. Another is constructors, or another are constructors that are created by you. So in this program there are two constructors that are created by the user. One is uh, one is this one, and another is this one. When we are calling this number n12, when this calls the default constructor, but when we suppose in this case this one was there, so in that case 0 1 2 would have been printed, because this constructor would have then been called if the number was defined like this. In that case this would have been the output, but since it is defined like this, which means it has to call the default constructor, this two one will get called. This one will not get called. Instead, for n2 and n3, whatever is there, that will get called. So that will be 1 comma 2. If you have any doubt regarding this, you can ask. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So you have been given a class here, which is called my class. It has got a constructor. You can see the constructor here, and it has got three three functions which are being used to set the values of the definition of the variables that will be declared here. So it is passing three variables, the object programming in C. So obviously there will be three variables here. So we need to fill this line up such that the output will be in C++ programming. Right. So if you look at this, what happens is it sets like it has three variables, right? S1, S2, and S3. It has been defined here. So it will be three string type variables, S1, S2, and S3, and each of them are getting like initialized. So here comes the first string, that is programming, will come here to here. It will come here to here, and then it will come to here. So S1 will get initialized to programming, S2 will get initialized to in, and S3 will get initialized to C++, right? And what happens during initialization? We are printing it. Now the printing need to be done in the order in C++ programming. So which one has to be printed first? S2, then S3, then S1, right? Now the order in which, so there is a particular order in which these constructors gets called, right? Like these variables are defined, and the order is the order in which it is defined here. So to execute this S2 first, we need to give S2 first here, then S3, then S1, then it will get printed in this order. So the correct answer for this will be this one, S2, S3, S1. So the moral of the story is order of constructor order of constructor uh, mm, calling is the order in which variables are declared. So this way of setting the variables are called in initialization list. This is a very important term. So the order of execution in this initialization list will be the order in which the variables have been declared. So in this case, A will be the answer, because we need to print in C++ program, that is S2, S3, S3. So this is the order it has to be declared here in the blank. Okay, so let's go to the next question. So you have been given these like pseudo this code. So you need to give you need to provide what will be the output or the error in this code. So what we have here, we have a class T and it has a private data member underscore T. Then we have a set T function and we have a get T function. We are setting the object, so we are creating an object here and we are setting this value by 5. That means this one gets called and then this one gets called to print it. Now as you can see, in both these cases we are using a const inside for these function definitions. So what happened when we define a method as constant? So it means that whatever like we cannot modify any variable or any data member inside it. Data members cannot be modified. So whenever we define it as a const, the data members inside it cannot be modified. So the rule is you can define those things when you write a get function, right? So in this case we are not modifying anything, so this definition is okay. But in this case we are modifying this variable underscore T. right? So that's the issue. So this will give a error because you cannot have a const data member inside a const data member. You cannot change the data member inside a const method. You cannot change the data member, so this will give a error. The correct answer is C, compiler error. So like I will repeat again. So why define a method as it applies for data members inside the method? Yes, yes. For data members inside the method, it doesn't. It will not be a issue. Think logically. If I define a variable, its limitation is only inside up to that variable. Outside that, it has no existence. So whatever you do it, it is not. It will not change anything. So the main so there are many things like this which happens in a like if you have seen the previous week's course, like previous week's course, you will see that we have been using this kind of definition like int set t constant t ampersand t. So why we do this? So that the variable in t, first of all, this is a call by a pass by reference. So pass by reference, uh, the 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 advantage of using pass by reference is that less data less uh, like architectural weight will be there for this case. So if there is no data copy and whatever we do in case of a pass by value. And the main reason for doing that was because we don't want to change these value. So these are few standard practices in C++. And if you want to ask why we do this, so I will say this, that when you are working in a like a big like like company, like a software company, so you will not write the whole code. So you will be writing only a, suppose, a small function of that entire module. So everyone is working in that like organization in the same piece of code. You're not considering t cannot have const function for not const object. I mean, it will not. So if you look at this, there is no non-const object. The first case will be the first one valid, because we are when the compiler checks it, it checks top to bottom, not bottom to top. So so this will be the first thing it will check. Then if there is no another non-const object, like suppose you have defined int x here, so then it will just give an error that there is nothing as non-const. So one thing I'm just mentioning here is that, so these kind of practices are actually considered as very good practices, because you will not be writing code whole code by yourself. You will be only given a part of code to write. So in that case, this is very helpful. This kind of practices, good practices. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So you have been given a code like this. So it is a we have a class complex. We have two variables, real and imaginary, that has been written as. We have a constructor here. Constructor are assigning the values. Then we have a function here called change, and we have a function here called show. In the main code, uh, we have like a class complex c1, and we are passing the value 10 comma 20, and for c2 we are passing 20 comma 50, and here we are sending change. So like the address of c2, then we are pressing show and then return 0. So what is this pointer? This pointer is so this pointer is a special pointer. So when c1 is created, so basically there is a memory location, and that is named as c1. So this is what happens. So it has two parts, re and im. So obviously this location has a address. So these store this address. So these pointers store this address. So inside the class, whenever we want to access this address, when inside any like variable, if we want to store this address, then this pointer is called, is used to get it. Now, what will be the output or error in this case? So you see, last week we gone through this thing called constant pointer. So this is a constant pointer, meaning its value cannot be changed. So its value here cannot be changed. So this will throw an error uh, with with this message L value required as L value required. So this will throw an error because this is a constant pointer and we are trying to assign it a new like another address location. So this will basically throw an error because obviously this stores this address. Now if we give it some other address, so where will this address go? This address will have to be stored somewhere, right, for c1, because c1 is still existing. It is not that like by passing this we will change this address location. So correct way of doing this will be address at c1 is equal to ampersand c2. This will be the correct way of what it wants to do here, that is changing the address of c1. This is the correct way to do this, but not this way. This is wrong way. So if you if the since the objective here is changing the address of c1, it has to be done using this c1 value at c1 equals to ampersand c2. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So there here we have a class, and we have declared a main function correspondingly. So the question is, what is what type of this pointer is associated to the object name. So we have created an object. So what is the this pointer that is currently associated an object of n? So as I discussed in the previous problem, this is a constant type pointer. So it will store this will be the correct way to define it, a constant pointer. Also this is also similar. So this is the these are the correct ways to define this pointer. So this is similar to the last one, like how what is a this pointer. So this will be the correct answers. Okay, so we have been given this next question. So we have been given this code block, and we need to find out what will be the output. So as you can see, we have uh, we have a class data, and it has three type of constructors. So this is the constructor which doesn't take in any parameter. This is the constructor which takes in a parameter of pointer type of the same uh, class data, and another is a pointer, another is a constructor which takes in a reference of data type. Now we have here few different ways of how object of this type is getting created, right? So first we are taking two address pointers t1 and t2, then we are creating one new object t1. Similarly we are creating t2, then we are creating another object t3, and we are copying the address the value at t1, and then there is this another copy, that is t3 is getting copied to t4. So which of the following will be getting called for each cases? That is what defined, that will what define the output. So so in the first case we are creating a new data, and we are not passing any variable. So in that case, which one will get called? This one. The first output will be O. Now for the second case, we are passing t1, that is t1 is a pointer in this case. So this one will get called, this one will has a parameter type pointer. So it will print k. Now this one, what happens? So this means value at t1. So if t1 is the address of some object which stores data, so this one will get copied to t3. So that is basically a copy. So in that case, this one will get called. This is the copy constructor in this case. So it will be z that will be printed. Again, this one is a copy. This is the copy constructor. So again, z will get printed. So the correct answer is okay, z. Any doubt regarding this? Yes, sure. So we have three different types of constructor here. So if you see this is a default constructor, or the constructor which takes no parameter. Now if you look at this one is basically takes a parameter, that is a pointer type of data. And if you look at this one is basically takes a constant of type ampersand reference. So this is basically the copy constructor. If you default copy constructor or copy constructor, you can say. So this is a copy constructor. So what happens in this definition? So in the first one, we are creating a so these are two pointer type variables t1 and t2. So we are creating a new data type object location object. So in this case, no parameter is being passed. So this first one will get called in this case as as constructor. So in the next case, we are passing a pointer, the pointer t1. For the definition t2, we are passing t1. In that case, this one will get called. See the pointer type. So this pointer type we are being passed. So pointer type constructor will get called. So this one will get called. So the output will be k. Now consider the case of T3 and T4. In T4, we are saying that T3 is equals to, that means copy whatever is stored in T1. So this is basically equal to means we are basically doing a copy. So in this case of copy, this one will get called, the copy constructor. And against T3 equals to T4 equals to T3 is also a copy. So again the copy constructor will get called. So last two cases, Z and Z will get printed. That's why. Okay. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So we have been given this code. So you need to I need to fill this one so that the output is D. So does it prints D? So what we are doing here? We are creating a class called string, and we have defined a specific constructor for string, and we have a display function for this class string. Now we are creating an object C, and we are defining x equals to C. Now we have now there c dot display is getting called. So we need to put someone in line 1 such that it will print d. So either it could be plus xx or x plus plus. So both of them increments the value of x. So in both cases it will get updated to d. But which one to choose? So the correct option will be plus plus x because it is postfix. So if we do this one, then only c will be printed because after printing it will execute the increment. But in case of postfix, after prefix, after increment, it will be printed. So plus plus x is the correct answer. Also, this we can also write x as this x, right? Because this pointer points to this current object. So plus plus this x is also correct. So we can either refer to as a plus plus x or this x. So another reason why this pointer is used. So these are all good coding practices. Like nobody stops you to define. Suppose we have a function called void inter and idx, and we have also x here. So it will be getting confused. So when we are using this x, we will just simply use this pointer to x equals to x. So these are just good coding practices such that unnecessary errors in the output or unnecessary bugs are not introduced in the code when we are maintaining a very huge code. So these are generally used like considered as very good coding practices. So the correct option is A and C. So now let's go to the next one. So we have a static. I know static has not been taught yet, but we have a static variable I equals to 5. We have a class, my class. It has a constructor and it has a destructor. The constructor increases the value of I uh, using a pre-increment operator, and the destructor decreases the value of I using a post-decrement operator. Now constructors are just when constructor gets called automatically during the object creation, destructors gets called when the object is destroyed. So that is when it becomes out of scope. So here is some random function which takes a class object of class my class as object C of my class as input. So here is the main function my class C1. Then we call we define create a object. Then we check we just input it to the function check, and then we type return 0. So what will be the output in this case? So initially the value of I is 5. We are creating an object. So number 1, creating C1. We are creating C1. So this will call the constructor, right? So that will print that will call the plus plus I, that will print 6. and i's value will become 6. So 6 will be the first one that will be printed. Next what we do, we pass this to this, right? So what happens in what happens in that case? Will will uh, will so what happens in this case? In this case, it is a pass by value, right? So what happens in pass by value? Copy. So basically a copy constructor will get called. But you see we haven't defined any copy constructor here, right? So it will remain, so no output will get printed. None of them will get called when creation. Now after this stuff inside check is over, the code that is there is getting executed, it will exit this scope. When it exits the scope, a destructor will get called. So in this case, this one will get called. So second one will be destructor called inside check, right? So what happens when the destructor called? It will do a post decrement. So 6 will get printed and the value of I becomes 5. Now when return 0, after that the destructor of C1 will get called. Destructor of C1 will be called. So now again this one will get called, this destructor, constant destructor. 5 will get printed and the value of I will become 4. So the output will be 665. So correct answer is C. Any doubt regarding this? You can ask. Or any doubt regarding any of the problems previously, you can ask me. Then we will go to the next section. Okay, so like just like last week, we will go to the like we will discuss the questions that were asked for week 3's assignments. So we will discuss all of them. So let's just like last week, we will solve it again this time for week 3. So if you have any doubt, you can ask. I will go through each of them. So let's start. So you have been given this set of code. So your task is to find which of them will generate an error. So we have a class that is called my class. It has a variable that is called pram, and we have declared the value of the variable as 5. We have defined another variable called pub, and we have declared the value as 10. And we have defined to set functions so as to set the values. Now we have this thing called this main function. There we have defined first, we have declared first my class object m. Then we have defined two variables of integer type a and b. Next we have a equals to m dot pra. So we are trying to access this. Next is b equals to m dot pub. We are trying to access this, storing the value at b. Next we do set pr as 100. Pra is equals to x and pr equals to b. So you have to find out which of them will generate an error. So if you look at line like line 1, it is trying to access pra. Now pra here is a private member, and pub is a public member. So what is the difference between a public and private member? So public has more visibility and private has less. So when we define data member or member function as private, they cannot be accessed by the objects directly of the class directly. So whenever we define anything, any data member or member function as private inside a class, it cannot be accessed by the object of that class, but it can be accessed by any other member functions, any public member functions that is present in the class. Similarly, where any public data member or member functions can be directly accessed by the object of the class. So in this case, if you see line 1, it will 100% generate an error because the member, the object, my class objects m, is trying to access the private member pra. So that will generate an error because it is a private member and the object of the class cannot access the private member. But the rest of them are all accessing public members. Line 2, 3, 4. Pub is a public member. Set PR is a public member. Set PU is a public member. So those will not generate any error. So the correct answer is option A. Line 1. Line 1 will generate an error. Any doubt regarding this? So generally it is considered defining any data member as public is not a good practice. For example's sake, we are doing it here, but generally it is a good practice to keep these things as private, so that any external user cannot just directly access it and changes its value. So let's go to the next one. So you have been given these two data members x and y in this class, and there may be some codes. So the question is, what access specifier you will give to each one of them such that y can be accessed from outside but x cannot be accessed by a data member from outside of the class. It's a very simple question. So what do you mean by access specifier? So this public, private, another term you will learn later in this course, that is protected. These are all called access specifier. So inside a class, anything by default is private. Anything by default. So whenever you write something like class tall int length double shoe, so these all by default are private members. If you define it as public, then only it becomes a public member function, else it is always private data member. So the question asks you, which of these following members can be accessed, we have to design in such a way that x cannot be accessed outside the class but y can be accessed from outside. So it is a very simple answer. So x will have to be defined as private and y has to be defined as public. The correct answer is C. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So you have been given this source code and you have to say what will be the output or error. So what has been given here? We have been given a class and two constructor. So another thing which we should mention here, constructor or a destructor should always be public. So if you think logically, if it is made private, then whose benefit it will be? Because the job of the constructor and destructor is to define the variables that are being present in the class. Now if we how the definitions are made like this, and it gets automatically called, a constructor gets automatically called when an object is created. So in that case, this main function should have access to that constructor, right? So to have an access, you need to make it public. Else if it becomes private, then that cannot be called. Similarly, the destructor gets automatically called when the object goes out of scope. Out of scope, it means, suppose in this case, m1 will not be present outside this main function. So what will happen to M1? M1 will needs to be destroyed. So we need to keep that also as public. Otherwise, the benefit of having a constructor and destructor is futile. It will not have any benefit. So in this case, what happens? We have two constructors. One takes no parameter, another takes one default parameter. So when this one is called, which one will be called? The one, because this says that it does not take anything as input. So it will try to call a constructor. So it will try to call my class using nothing as a. So there obviously this will create a confusion, like which one will be called, this one or this one. So this kind of overloading will create confusion. So as a result, the compiler will throw an error. And the compilation error will be call of overloaded my class constructor. So the correct answer is D in this case. Compile error. If you have any doubt regarding this, you can ask. Okay, so let's go to the next question. So we have this following pseudocode, and we have to find out what will be the output. So let's analyze the code. So we have a global I, int I equals to 0. We have a class test, which is called test, and it has got two public, one public constructor and another public destructor. So I is equal to 1, the constructor sets the value of I as 1, and the destructor sets it as 2. We have a function f which creates a object of class T, right? Then we have uh, a function fun of return type int. It assigns the value of I as 3, and it calls this function f, and it increments the value of post increment the value of I. And then we have the main function. It calls fun function and it prints the value of I. So the question is, what will be the output? So let's go through it one by one. So first, fun is being called, right? So what happens when fun is called? This one gets called, value of I is currently 0, it gets changed to 3, f is called, what does f do? F creates a object t. So when a t is called, a constructor will get called. Constructor t, when t is created, object t is created, this constructor will get called. So I value will become 1. So I value will become 1. Now when this test, like after creation, we do nothing here. So we so at that time, what happens when it comes there, the the value of this destructor gets called. So the destructor value will become, so this destructor gets called, so I value will become 2, right? So since I is a global variable, it gets updated as it is. So there is no thing like that, that one updated, after that it will stay only within the scope of that function. That is not, it is a global variable, so its value can be changed wherever. Next we do I plus plus. So current value of I is 2, so it gets updated to 3, right? And 3, and we return this here. So now, since it is a post increment, so I value will be the I value 2 will come here, and after that the increment will happen. So 2 will get printed here, then C out I will print 3. So the correct answer is 2 3, that is option C. Sir, if we give my class M1, will it give error? It is compile time error. Okay. So so when you give my class M1, so what will happen? It will not call any of these constructor. Instead, it will call the default constructor. So my understanding is, since this is a compile time error, so like it is not a runtime error. So this one will not give error, but the compilation of the class only will give error. It is not that we are not using that will not give an error. That's why. So here is the thing: a difference between a like a mm, like a thing like a C++ and a Python kind of thing. So Python is kind of a scripting. So it does not compile the entire program, right? It compiles only the part up to which it is required. But in C++, the entire code gets compiled at a time. So that's why it will give a compilation error, irrespective of uh, due to this definition which we have given. Any doubt for this one? So let's go to the next one. So So you have this is a code which we discussed a little bit previously. So so once who have attended from the beginning, so we have done a code like this. So what will be the answer? Like, let's see. I will not tell the answer. Say, see whoever you can do that. So you can just write the what will it will be the option in the chat. So as we have discussed previously, what happens in this code? In this code, fun is basically a class, and this is its constructor. So so it takes in three input, fstr, mstr, and lstr, and this basically sets the value, just like a simple constructor which does. So this kind of definition is called initialization list. Now, like in naked eye, one will think that okay, first this constructor will get called, then this constructor will get called, then first fstr's constructor will get called, then mstr is, constructor will get called, then lstr instruction will called. But that is not the case. So what happens is this: the order in which those variables are declared here, in that order it will get called. So in this case, what happens? So we are passing coding is fun. So coding becomes fstr is becomes mstr, and fun becomes lstr, right? So we need to arrange it in say that order such that this gets printed as fun is coding. So in that case, like our objective is that fun is coding gets printed. So lstr will get printed first, then mstr will get printed, that is yes, and then fstr will get printed. So in that order we need to define the variables here. So first it will be lstr, then it will be mstr, then it will be fstr. So the correct answer is option A, lstr, mstr, fstr. Clear this one? Okay, so let's go to the next one. So we have been given uh, we have been given a class that is of type that is called point, and it has got two variables x and y, and it has got a constructor. Now we define our object point pt and we give in two variables 2 and 7 to initialize it. The question is what will be the output? What will be the output? So as we have discussed in few problems back, the objective of using constructor is to automatically declare the data members of the class object. So this is the main objective of using a constructor, so that user don't have to take the headache of declaring each variable, or default declaring the data member value. So since it has to be default, we need to keep it as private, public. So if we don't keep it as public, the compiler, the main function won't be able to do it automatically. In that case, it will just throw an error. So here it happens like that. So inside this is everything since we defined also everything in class is private. So in this case, you see, we haven't defined any access specifier for this. So by default, everything here is private. So int x, int y, and this constructor is also private. So as a result, when the compiler runs it, it will generate an error, compiler error. The constructor is private. So the correct answer will be this one. Any doubt regarding how constructor and destructor works? Uh, if you have any doubt regarding that. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So we have like a class which is called complex. It has got two variables, private members, data members x and y, and it has got some member functions which are public, and they are called, one is called complex, int xy. It takes two variables, like that is the like one constructor. Another constructor is the copy constructor. This one is the copy constructor, and then this one tries to change the value of this pointer. It's basically trying to copy, kind of do a copy, and another is the show. The question here is what will be the output or error. So if you see here, uh, we have defined few few integers, like few objects of class complex type. One is C1, that is called using 10 comma 20. So this one is one constructor and another is constructor 2. So constructor 1 will get called, then C2 20 comma 50, again constructor 1 will get called, and then complex C3 comma C1, so that the copy constructor 1 will get called. In the third one we are saying that C3 dot change value of C2. So we are saying change the change the C3 value, like this pointer of change this pointer of C3 by address of C2. So that is they are trying to do here. So this is not permitted, as we have told before. The reason is this is a constant pointer. Its value cannot be its value cannot be changed. So that is the reason it will show a value L value required as left operand of assignment. So one more thing. So if you think about it logically, does this method of changing the address does any help? Like the structure has been designed so thoroughly, like this is one example of that. So this kind of stupid DT will not be tolerated. They will just throw an error. So if that the C power of C, that this kind of sanity checking is so strong that you cannot do this kind of stupid like mistake, like assigning some other pointer to C, because that will corrupt the memory. So these kind of things are not allowed by default. So this kind of sanity checking are good, because if you go to C, these things are not there as a result. Okay. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So here we have uh, a class. Here we have like a class which is called test. It is of type, it is of intx. It has got a variable intx, data member intx. Then it has got two constructor. One is called both are test. So this one takes a default value also, so it can take a default value or not. And another is const int type, like it is kind of a like it is a copy constructor. This is a normal constructor and this is a copy constructor, and it assigns the value to x and its output. So we do this test m1 equals to 5, return 0. So the question is, what will be the output? So what will be the output? So now there is uh, a quite like deep understanding which you need to like to check this carefully. So you see, this does it says test m1 equals to 5, right? Now 5 is basically int type by default. So basically are equal to, in most cases, is basically a copy constructor, right? So whenever it's sees an equal to, it will basically call, in these cases, it will search for this const test ampersand something, some definition type. But see, there is nothing here. Instead, it has a int type. So it will throw a compilation error. Now, if you want, you can avoid this compilation error. You need to do something so that, so if you are given these tasks that, okay, I want to permit this. If someone types test m1 equals to 5, I want to make sure that uh, x value becomes 5. What will you do? What will you do? So to make sure that this doesn't throw an error, what will you do? So if you have any idea, you can share with me. This is a very like interesting question. So suppose this code is there, but you want to make sure that this kind of assignment works. Anyone? Anyone wants to try? Uh, no, that I don't want. I want to make sure that test m1 equals to 5 has to work. Because if you create a yeah, but I don't want to do that. Okay, I so for Akash, I will say what you are trying to do. So look, you have not understand what I want to do. I want to allow test m1 equals to 5 such that x value becomes 5. And Lakshita, um, that you can do, but I don't want to do that. I want to do that test m1 equals to 5 words, so we need to make a change in class test. So so I will do something. Wait, I will show. You have you have gone through this in last week, week 2. So you have used this term operator overloading, right? And this week we have gone through the thing called copy constructor. So what you will do is you will create a test operator type const int ampersand I, and then you do this thing xi. Now when you will do this test m1 equals to 5, now it will work. Basically you need to define a you need to overload this equal to operator. So by default this is the copy constructor or equal to overload. So by default this is present. Sorry. So by default this is present. This is default, and you need to write another function like this that will solve the problem. Then it will allow this test m1 equals to 5. These are quite innovative approach to very basic kind of uh, problems. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So we need to fill the blanks such that the output of the program will be the program will print 5. So we have a construct a class const c. Obviously it has some variable called x. Next we define what to say constructor. Then we have then we have member function setx, and we have defined it as const, and we have also given a print that we define const, right? So we have seen in the like in the beginning of the class that whenever we define a function as const, meaning we cannot change the value of any variable inside it, right? So if we just use int x, this will basically what it will do, it will throw a error, right? So we need to think of something such that we'll be able to set this value. So the C++ like always has something up tricks up its sleeve. So it has this type mutable, which is basically the opposite of const. Basically, if you define a term as mutable, that that variable's value can always be changed at any place. Doesn't matter where it is. It can change any place. So, so if we define this as mutable int x, then this will not throw an error. This will not throw a compilation error. It will allow safe uh, execution of the program. So we need to define x as mutable int or int mutable. Both are same. Like just like we have seen const int and int const are same. Similarly, mutable and int mutable are same. So that is a way of doing it, of bypassing what is that const function. Okay. So if you have any doubt regarding today's class, just ask. So that was the last one which we discussed. So if you want, I can discuss each problem once more, just to give an idea what is solved throughout the class. Else you can ask any of your doubts. I will show you.
Sir, please repeat the question number 1 because I joined the late.
Uh, okay, so I will just go through each questions one by one. Okay, so I will go a little fast. Don't worry. If you have any doubt, you can ask. So in this question, we are asked that which of the following methods can change the state of the class object. So change of state in the sense means we can change any of the value of these variables, RE and IM. So if you see in this case, in this kind of six member functions, you see here in the first one, here the value of RE gets changed. In this case, value of IM is changed. In case of print, no value is changed, only RE and I gets printed. In case of INR, we are changing the value again. So that changes the state. In case of INR RE, INCR RE, you see we are just outputting the value of RE plus 1, but we are not changing the value of RE. So it doesn't change the state of a complex class object. Again, INC IRM, we are changing the value of IM. So it changes the state. So option D is correct. Set RE, set IM, set INCR, INCR IM values can be changed. Okay, so now this one we discussed like the nuances of what is a default constructor and what is a normal constructor. So we discussed that if we call it as number n, it will use the default constructor. but if you just use number, then this one will get called, the one with no parameters. So this was the crux of this problem. So those who have joined late, you can just watch the video later. It will be available. I'm just going through it one by one so that it becomes a recap for this one. Now in this we defined the usage of initialization list. So here, as you can see, uh, this is the constructor, and it uses a kind of thing called s1 s2 s3 consecutively. This kind of initialization is called initialization list. So now by naked eye it may seem that s1 will get called first, then s2, then s3. Like general consensus will be the first which one is called will be the first one constructor that will be called. But instead, it has been seen the order in which the variables have been declared, in that order the order of execution of this constructor takes place. So in this case, uh, we need to just uh, print, we are passing programming in C++, and we have to print in C++ programming. So in that order we needed to set up this fill in the blanks. So the task was that the order in which order the initialization list works. So what we found out, that initialization list works in the order in which the variables has been declared. Fine. Next, when it come to this, we again understood the nuances of what is a const type uh, member function and non-const type member function. So when we use a const type member function, we cannot change any values inside it. And similarly, inside that you cannot define anything like int x, because then it will again throw an error that const function cannot have non-const object like that. So we also discussed why const things are basically used, const function are basically used. So the reason for using them was to define this kind of get functions, so that user is not able to change the any variable inside it. So this was one of the usage of using const member function. Next, this one was another good example to demonstrate that what is this pointer. So this pointer is basically a pointer which stores the address location of an object of a class. Now this is a constant pointer, meaning you cannot override its value. If you try to override its value, it will throw a error, L value required as left operand of assignment. So this is a crucial uh, nuance to take care of while you are programming, that this pointer cannot be overridden. Also, it is a very good example that C++ is very sanity checked. It cannot allow this kind of nonsense that one will be able to just override the value of this pointer. Next, we come to this. This one was just similar what I discussed in the previous one, because what is the pointer related to this pointer, type of pointer that is related to this pointer. Now this one was an example to demonstrate the various types of constructors that are available, like what is a default like normal constructor without any parameter. Another is a constructor which takes in a pointer type variable, and another is a constructor which is basically a copy constructor, which takes in one data type class object and try to assign it. So this was another just example of when to use which kind of default like constructor while writing your C code. So if you may notice that these may be things like what is the error kind of thing or what kind of output type of questions, but these carry very much significance to understand how C++ works. So once your basic of C++ is good, you will be able to just do it very easily. Next, we this question has showed that how to use a this pointer, or is this pointer usage of this pointer is necessary. So the usage of this pointer, first of all, usage of this pointer is not necessary, but however it is considered as a good practice to use a this pointer, because it helps in uh, to create a division, like which is a variable of the class or which is a very local variable of a the member function, or a parameter to a member function, just to create the difference, like which one is what. So that is a very nuanced way of showing. Next, this one is again question of like demonstrate how constructor destructor works. So as you know, constructor is called automatically when when a object of a class is created. Similarly, a destructor is whenever called automatically whenever object of a class goes out of scope. So if you see that this class C, this object C of my class, the destructor of it will get called automatically once the scope of this function ends. Once the scope of this function ends. Similarly, mm, the destructor of this object C1 will be called once the scope of main ends. So this was another question to demonstrate how destructor and constructor works. So this one was to demonstrate how public and private member functions differ. So a public member function or data member can be accessed directly from the by the object of the class, but that is not the thing for private members. In fact, they cannot be accessed. And a good prototype is to keep all data members as private and member functions as public, so that uh, any change user outside user does not change any value of the data members of a class object. Okay, similarly this one was same, that when we it showed what are access specifier public and private. Again, this one was of the view to differentiate between a constructor and also a constructor with a default parameter, and what is the pitfalls if you declaring something like this. This one was fun to do thing, just similarly to the one in problem 9, like how constructor and destructor works. This one again similar to initialization list. This one showed why constructor cannot be a private. Constructor and destructor has to be public. This is again to correspond to this pointer. This one like to show like what is operator overloading in correspondence to a copy constructor. And this one was the last one which we discussed. And it is again a reference to this. We introduced this object type mutable. Okay, so that was the end for today's session. So we will again meet next week. Thank you for joining. If you have any doubt, you can ask. Else, you are free to leave. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I'm ending the call.